All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Minnesota Beer Banter. I'm your host, Beer Master from MN, and today we're going to try a historical selection from Third Street Brewhouse in Cold Springs, Minnesota. All right, so the first of the three that we're going to try today is going to be the Oktoberfest. So this one is their Oktoberfest Session. This one comes in at an alcohol content of 4.6, so it's a little bit more on that sessionable side, something you can drink kind of all day. All right, let's see how it tastes. So just by looking at it, it's very see-through, nice and light. You can see the bubbles cascading through. Very little head retention on there, just kind of dissipates. It's kind of got a cool amber orange color. Right away, even as I was pouring it, I was reminded of like a banana bread, kind of like malty, yeasty notes right off the bat. Definitely smells like a traditional Oktoberfest style beer. Definitely like light feeling in the mouth, very thin almost. Very kind of goes down easy. Lots the same, that kind of like bread notes, or like I said, a little bit of like banana on it. I definitely love that it's not as bitter as some other beers that I've tried, so I think it's easier to drink, a little more enjoyable sometimes. I think it's got a decent amount of malt to kind of help balance everything out. This is definitely a beer that if I was in the mood for a nice Oktoberfest style, I would definitely take one of these and just enjoy it. I like that it's brewed very close to what I remember when I was in Germany. I'd say as a whole, I'd give this one an 85. Definitely a solid beer for the fall season. So if you have any interest in this one, just go ahead and go up to Cold Springs. Check them out. They're only about an hour to 2 hours away from the Twin Cities area, just a little northwest of the Minneapolis area. So if you're out that way, definitely stop by and try some beer. All right, so the second beer that we're going to try is the Brewers Tears, and this one is a pre-Prohibition style lager. So this was an older recipe that they actually found in the brewery a while back and decided to kind of make it how it was intended a long time ago. All right, let's see how it tastes. So, right away, just by looking at it, it's super pale straw color, very light, very just like I can see straight through it without even trying. So there's no like blocking of light on that one. It reminds me a little bit of like the domestic beers on the first smell, but a little bit sweeter, a little more like stone fruits almost. So it's like a light domestic plus, maybe. It definitely is the same mouthfeel of like a domestic beer, but there's a lot better flavors, a lot more going on. It's almost like a sweet appley kind of flavor with that sweet juiciness, but maybe just like a touch of tartness kind of on the backside. but it's definitely very cleansing on the palate. Goes down smooth. Taste kind of leaves you wanting more right away. You don't get that lingering kind of flavors going on. I would say if you're a fan of the domestic light beers but want something a little bit different from what you're used to drinking, this would be a great way to introduce yourself to the world of craft beer without getting too overwhelmed. I would definitely give this beer a 77. The third and final beer that we're going to try today is going to be the Kegel Brow. And this was a beer that they brewed to be light stable. It's one of the first light stable beers available in the market. Let's go ahead and see what we got going on. Upon first kind of glance at this beer, this is definitely the lightest of the three that we tried today. Also very see-through. Actually looking at the ridges on my fingerprint on the other side because it's so clear and see-through with that. It's also the most carbonated. As you can see when I poured it, it had the most head right away. It's not a long-lasting head like other beers that we've had on the show in the past. But let's get started and see what it smells like. This is definitely very lager-esque, similar to like a Sam Adams, just kind of that like smooth, easy drinking flavor. Definitely got a little bit of those like biscuity notes to it, a lot of that malt bread flavors going on. This one has the most effervescent bubbles like we talked about. I can feel them kind of softly in my mouth as they sort of cascade. I can definitely tell that this is an older style beer recipe. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy or experimental about it. Just the way beer used to be made. So I think it fits in quite well with their historical series package that we picked up from the brewery. Definitely worth trying because it's like a little bit of history in a glass. Something just to see where beer was and where we are now. As a whole, I would probably give this beer 81. After trying all three of the beers from the historical pack that the Third Brew Street put out, I'd say it's a nice kind of representation of the variety of beers that they've brewed in the past, as well as some good indication of the future beers that they could put out. So if you want to try them, feel free to check them out at your local liquor store or head on up to Cold Springs, Minnesota. Stop by at the brewery and say hello to our friends there at the Third Street Brewhouse. As always, grab a beer, cheers a friend, and we'll see you next week. It's gonna dissipate. Now it's so full I almost have to like sip off the top. Tasty.